Joe Garcia. And on today's episode, we're going to be joined by Steady from the Countdown City Geekcast here in San Antonio. How are you, Steady?
I'm good, Joe. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, yeah, man. It's always great to see all this talent that we have here as far as, podcasters here in the Alamo City, man.
Yeah, there's a
I
lot of
love
us.
it. Yeah, there's a lot of us, not just you, me, everybody, and everybody like specializes in different things. You have the geeks that like to do the geek casting, like myself included. You have the
Yeah,
sports commentators. You have guys that do true crime podcasts, and
I love those. Yeah.
all this stuff, man. It's just so interesting to me the plethora of talent that we have here in the Alamo City. I think that what I wanted to do is get everyone together so we can like meet each other and talk to each other, and it'd be interesting just to have a little sit down discussion. What's going on,
That's
man?
right.
You
That's
know?
right. I've already been talking to Manny from the Goods podcast.
Oh
We're
yeah,
mutual friends, and I keep egging him on, man. But he's a busy guy, so I gotta find him on one of these weekends where he's not
yeah,
working or something, so we can get all of these different groups together.
yeah. Manny's big time, dude. He ain't got time for us little people.
That's right. That's right.
I was just making fun of Manny, dude. I got to come and do a guest segment on their podcast. I got some ideas, man. I just saw some really interesting costumes, like some masks over here at the my local store. I'm not gonna reveal
Oh,
the name because
nice.
I don't want nobody to go over there and start stealing my thunder. But I'll tell you more about it afterwards, dude. I think we could do something with that, man. It'd
All
be a
right,
lot of
that'll
fun.
work. That'll work. Heck
So
yeah.
what we're here to really discuss and talk about is the Joker movie. I went and saw it on
Yeah.
Thursday. I saw it at 6 p.m. with my family, and I really dug it, man. I'm sure you've already seen it already.
Thursday, 4 p.m. One of the first times I've seen a Thursday opening start at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. But that's a really early showing, so it kind of threw me for a loop. But I bought the tickets and I was like, I gotta go out of work early, boss. I gotta go catch this movie. So I always try and get in with the first viewing crowds because those are very passionate, like-minded people such as myself. So you want to be with individuals that sort of are passionate about it. That way you feel that energy because they're probably just as
Yeah, I think I lost you for a second. Steady. See if you're still with
oh,
us. Oh, there you go. You came
sorry,
back.
you still there?
Yeah, we you came back, man. It's just a wonky connection. It's all good. Hey, but
Technology.
yeah, you saw it at 4, and like you
Yeah,
were saying, you're seeing it with the diehard fans, and I'm sure that the
yeah,
reception there was kind of like, everybody was kind of humbled and quiet and solemn, when they were leaving the theater because the movie leaves you shaken a little bit at the end because I don't want to reveal a lot, but there's parts of the movie where you're seeing the fractured psyche of the main character, which is the Joker,
yeah.
Arthur Fleck. So in certain scenes of the movie, you're thinking that this guy's really living. This is his reality. But
Yeah,
the thing is, you get to see that some of these things are figments of his imagination. He's living like this
yeah,
altered version of reality, where people are like, "Oh, this is really happening." No, the Joker's playing all of us, man, because it's hard to determine what is real and what is fake, almost like Inception in a way, So I kind of dug that, where it kind of leaves you shaken and you don't know what to believe, and you have a lot of questions, and it does a lot, I think, as far as the grittiness of the film. The cinematography was beautiful to me.
it
It
was, it
had that
was.
grungy feel, that gritty feel, even the sense of music. It was invasive at times to make you feel uncomfortable. They did, I think, a really good job as far as setting that scene to make you
Yeah.
feel uncomfortable and awkward. And the music, from the cinematography to the acting, it was really top notch to me. I mean, how did you feel when you started watching this?
I always had a sort of expectation or a sort of level of fear going into the film because I was worried that it was going to be sort of grim throughout. I
Yeah,
had friends that would ask me, what are you excited to see the Joker film? And I said, I'm not really excited because I'm already thinking there's going to be no action. There's going to be no excitement. It's going to be like a indie drama film. And
Yeah.
so I prepared myself to sit in a 2 hour, very dark, very grim, very character driven movie. You know, it's not a big flashy Hollywood film. And so I think there's a lot of people going into this, especially some parents with younger kids that should not be there, by the way.
If they're
But
under the age of 10, man, come on now. Don't bring your
uh,
kids with you, man.
there were some people actually having their kids get up and walk out every now and then because
Oh, man.
there's no way to keep their attention. This isn't eye catching or action driven. Like I said, this isn't an entertaining film like most movies are. This is all about getting into, like you had said earlier, the psyche of the character,
Yeah.
and he's very broken, and he's this entire film is just one big drama piece. The tension throughout this film is chilling. There's a little amount of anxiety that you kind of feel watching this film because you're seeing a man who's already down on his luck, and yet that's not the bottom of the barrel. He falls farther and farther and farther, and you're watching a car accident in like slow motion. That's what it kind of felt like to me.
Yeah.
I I told some friends, I said, I'm going to treat it like I'm watching the Titanic. I know it's going down. It's just how long is it going to take for that boat to get to the bottom of the ocean? And so that's how I went into this film. And I don't think there's a very kind of a safe way, another way to do it. You really need to prepare yourself for what you're about to view. This is a sad, tragic film throughout, and I absolutely loved it. You brought up the sort of delusions that Arthur was going through, and I had a feeling, and I've talked to some other people that had the same sort of theories that this was going to be a component of the film that was going to be utilized. I
Yeah.
love films like that. Fight Club, one of my favorite films,
Oh, yeah.
did that kind of a thing, and Joker takes it one step further, where we are understanding that even after the movie's over, I'm still unsure of what scenes were actually real and
Real.
happened, and what scenes were still going on within the character's head. If you want to talk spoilers, I'll probably throw out one towards the end
Yeah, go ahead.
that I think. So, spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen the film. Um, at the very end of the film, we see Joker get arrested. I think everything that happened on the Murray Talk Show, by the way, I do think those events actually occurred. I think Murray was shot and killed. I think Arthur was kind of sitting there in the studio. We have the media reacting to the story, all the TVs that pan out, and they're all freaking out and stuff like that. I think all that happened. If the director Todd Phillips comes out in the year and says, "Oh, by the way, he's been in the Arkham this entire time," none of that happened. I'll believe him. I won't even hold it against him. But I think the scene where the Joker's followers, if you will, crash the ambulance into the police vehicle, pull him out, and he's sort of reeling in the admiration of all of these
His
this
chaos.
this mob. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think that occurred at all. I think that's one of the things that's still going on in his head. And the reason why I think that is if you look throughout the film, anything that was positive in Arthur's life, as sad as it is to say this, anything that was positive in his life, those were all of the made up events going on in his head. The relationship with his neighbor, being on the Murray show in the very beginning, Murray telling him if he had a son, he wished he was like him. That
Yeah.
was more obvious. But anything that was positive in his life was clearly a delusion of his. And so I think that one was another one because he does end up back at Arkham. We're assuming back at Arkham afterwards. And so I don't see how he would get picked up by law enforcement, once he escaped, once the crowd had pulled him out of the vehicle. So I do think that after the Murray show, he gets picked up, gets put into Arkham, and That's where the character is now. But like I said, if we're to find out, maybe there's no right answer to this, but if
Yeah.
we do find out that more scenes or more events in this movie were just hallucinations or conjured up in his own psyche, in his own mind, I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Yeah, I'm thinking more along the lines the total opposite of you.
Oh yeah,
We've traditionally seen, in every, Batman movie that
yeah.
we see the iconic scene where Joker comes out and he kills Bruce Wayne's mom and dad, or his family, his
One
mother and
time,
the
yeah,
father.
one
Yeah,
time, yeah,
we see that happen, and it's right in front of Bruce. Whether we see it in a film, or we can see it in a comic book rendition of a
yeah,
film. Kind of like an animated Batman film. We've
yeah.
seen that same scenario kind of play in again and again, where you see him shoot and you see the pearl necklace bust and the pearls just hit the ground and all that. Why would that not change? The Joker killed this Bruce Wayne's family. That to me was the start.
Something changed. Are you there?
I'm here. All right, so I got you back.
Oh, there
All
you
right,
go. Okay.
all right. So give me a second here. Let me try something.
Yeah, yeah. Take your time. Take your time.
Audio and video settings. Okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and try to kill the camera.
Okay. Yeah, do whatever you gotta do, man.
Yeah, I think that camera was probably. I got two cameras going at the same time.
Ah, okay.
It might be too much for the USB ports to handle, so something has to give.
Yeah.
All right.
There you
Well,
go.
we're still recording, so we haven't stopped.
Cool.
But getting back, I'm gonna go ahead and finish. I don't really think that scene with the talk show scene really occurred. I just think that that was
Ooh,
probably a
okay.
figment of the imagination because if you're keeping with the Batman history and the lore of the
Yeah.
characters, the Joker did kill his Bruce Wayne's family, so I don't think that ever is going to change. I think what happened, the reality was, the Joker killed the family, and they winded up, apprehending him, and they put him in Arkham Asylum. I think the whole scene with the ambulance crashing into the police car and everybody pulling him out, I think those are just all delusions or figments of his imagination, something that he's created in his own fractured,
Yeah.
mind in his own world. I believe he's actually at Arkham while he's, all this stuff is being fantasized in his own mind. He's back at home. He feels comfortable. Arkham to him, it looked like it was more like his church. This is where he goes. This is where he feels safe. He's happy there, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that that's going to set the scene for things to come, and it's interesting to me how we see, these contrasting characters. You do have an appearance of Bruce Wayne as a child, I'll say that. And you have the Joker, starting to really his descent into madness, where he
Yeah.
goes to visit him at Wayne Manor, and he wants answers because he opened this letter that his mother wrote to Thomas Wayne, which is Bruce Wayne's father. But you start to see a lot of these contrasting styles to me, which is interesting that the Joker believes that what he's going to do is actually saving Gotham by creating chaos, and giving the people what they want. Feed into your dark desires and don't let the man dictate how you're going to live your life or what should be done. Because it's kind of like political statement, where you're having what's going on in today's society or in today's world being shown up there on the big screen. And that's what a lot of people had a big issue about. Not only about the mental illness aspect of the film, but about the social political views of the film, kind of in a dark contrast in today's society, what's really happening with the world around us in
Yeah.
today's America. And I think that's what people really got upset about because they felt the director just used the character of the Joker to force his political views on the public. So I'm just like, well, you can have an argument for that, but at the core, it's a movie about a character who has a fractured mind. And yes, it could, play closely with what's happening in today's culture, in today's society. But ultimately, the undertones of the film is showing you a descent into madness of the Joker, showing you how he got there. And then you can sympathize with the guy, but at the same time, you're just like, wow, he's one pretty messed up dude. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. Like some of these scenes that just leave you like, wow, this is crazy. Like what is he doing? One in particular scene to me is, and I'll let you go ahead and finish this because I know you probably want to talk about it too. The apartment scene. There's a scene where the Joker in his apartment, and long story short, he was hired. He's a clown. He's a performer,
Right.
and
Right.
he does work in an office with other clowns. With other performers.
Right.
And one of the guys, his friend, gives him a gun. Gives him a gun, says, "You need to protect yourself. It's getting crazy out there in the streets of Gotham." So he takes it and he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna protect myself." He has a gun. He has some rounds in the bag as well. So
Right.
Joker performs. Long story short, it's in a kid's hospital, and
Children's
boom,
Hospital. Yeah.
and the gun comes out of his pocket, like whoops, and he's trying to hide it or whatever, but it's already too late. Gets fired, and the buddy that gives him the gun lies about it and says,
Throws him under the bus.
yeah, throws him under the bus, and he kind of says he was asking him about buying a gun off of him. And
Yeah.
so he gets fired from his job, and then that same guy finds out Joker's mom passes, comes over to the apartment. Hey man, we just came to check on you. He didn't do that. He came over to make sure that the stories would line up so the gun wouldn't get traced back to him and he wouldn't get in trouble. Cares nothing
Exactly.
about cares
Exactly.
nothing about Arthur. It's all about self-preservation.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So Arthur's like, "Oh yeah, yeah," and he had some scissors stuck or not stuck, hidden away in his trousers. So I'll let you go ahead and reveal the rest because to me that really stuck out.
Yeah, no, he actually takes the scissors to his friend's his well maybe they were friends, maybe they weren't coworker his
Yeah,
coworker's neck, and it's a really brutal and graphic scene, and it's one of the things that you had mentioned earlier that sometimes this movie is allowing the audience empathize with the character. I did early on when sort of he was being assaulted either in the alleyway or on the subway train, but once he actually starts committing these like horrific acts and these murders is what they are, it's when I really start to just let go and just start to observe. There's no more compassion involved, because he goes from doing it in self-defense in a way almost on the subway to now he's doing it because he feels something more. It actually he actually sees that the world around him is starting to notice him. Whereas he felt invisible from before, he
yeah,
starts to tell other people, like, people are finally starting to notice me. And it's because of the things he's doing. And it's because he thinks he's being rewarded by, making out with his neighbor down the hall and stuff like that. So he does kill his coworker. He lets his other coworker go because he was a nice guy to him. It
he was a
plays
little
out.
person. He was a little person.
Yeah. And it plays out really dramatic. That entire scene was intense. And like I
Yeah.
said, it was brutal. And he was just getting ready for the Murray show at that point.
I felt bad though. Let's talk about that scene in the apartment. He let
Yeah.
the little person go because he says, you were the only one that was nice to me, and his
You're free to
buddy, the
go.
the little person, that's over there. He's like, he can't believe what's going on. It's a very traumatic
Yeah.
event that just unfolded in front of him. he was witness to a murder, a brutal
Yeah.
murder at that, and he's like, "Oh my God, why did you do that? Why would you do that?" And he's afraid of Arthur, because he's like, "Man, he just killed this guy. He's for sure gonna
Sure.
off me." And he's like, "No, I'm gonna let you go because you're the only one who was nice to me. You're free to go, man. Go ahead and leave." The irony and ironies, dude. The guy goes to open the door, and Arthur had it locked, and of course the lock is way on the top of
At
the
the
door
top, yeah.
where he can't reach it. And he's just like, he doesn't want to ask him for help, man. And I felt so bad for it. Like you could hear the
Oh,
whole theater was like, "Oh, let him
oh
go,"
my gosh.
So he goes and he unlocks the door and lets the guy out, and I'm just like, that was just heartbreaking, man. Because you're like, please don't off this dude, man. He ain't done nothing to you.
Yeah, no, the film does a great job of playing up those moments, those sort of very awkward moments that
Yeah,
are used as comedy. I remember when Arthur was in the comedy club and he's watching this comic on stage. Arthur's laughing. Well, the crowd would laugh, and Arthur would be quiet, silent, almost like he's
yeah,
thinking about what's happening. And then in the middle of a joke, Arthur would laugh, and the crowd
oh yeah.
is all silent around him. And I'm just like, oh, it's so awkward, but the,
He
that's
couldn't
the
even
met.
get going. He
That's
couldn't even get going in the
yeah,
comedy club. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, that's true. But that's what this movie does. It's grim and it's dark and it's awkward and it's brutal, and that's gonna push a lot of people away from this film because, like I said, that's not what Hollywood puts out a lot of times. But all those things, all those beats are all intentional. That was the purpose of this film. It wasn't meant to raise him up, to have people put Joker on a pedestal. Nothing like that. You're not going into this movie cheering for him, and you're definitely not leaving this movie cheering for him. Um, and with the whole chaos, the whole deal with the crowd and Gotham sort of burning itself, and the lower or the poor people sort of rising up to take on the high society and all that. That wasn't ever his intention. That was just sort of a happenstance, a domino effect.
yeah,
And he wasn't ever really about it. He even said on the Murray Show, like, I have no political agenda in this. Whether or not, Todd Phillips is trying to sort of touch on some real world issues that are going on today. I don't know if I've heard him in an interview say that. I probably should look for that exactly. But I think that I can attribute that to Joker's character. He's an individual that can create a lot of chaos with very little. That's just a part of what he does. He can take an entire city and bring the city to its knees, and really not put a whole lot of effort into it. He can instill fear. He can. We've seen it in either other movies or comic books or animated shows. He does create sort of a following in Gotham. That's where he always has an unlimited supply of henchmen because there's always the crazies that are out to come out of the woodwork. That's just another component of the legend or the mythos of the Joker
yeah,
that I think you can see, and I think the film does a great job of portraying that. All of that happened around him had nothing to do with him. It was all just a complete accident that he had caused, without ever knowing about it. I don't know where this film. It's really interesting because as great as this film was, and as much as I really enjoyed it, I don't know if I would want to see this character again. If they do it, I'll be happy with it. But I think just this uprise from the poor in Gotham coming up, the death of Thomas and Martha Wayne, all of those random accidents or those random acts that occurred, I think that's just enough to say this is a great way to sort of send off the Joker character in this version. I don't know. It's really interesting, but I don't know if I want this Joker to kind of move forward because he's really not in control of himself. And the
yeah,
Joker in any sort of medium, comic book, animation, film, the one thing that Joker's always done is he's always been in really real control of himself. He is chaotic. Um, He does things randomly. You really don't know what he's going to do next, but he's sort of controlled chaos. And this character, Arthur Fleck, I don't really know if he's ever going to get to that level of being able to really be that type of cerebral villain that we've seen the Joker be before. If they
Yeah.
decide to do it eventually, because I know Joaquin Phoenix is asking Todd Phillips, is there something possible that we can do in the future? If they decide to do it, I would want to see the Joker changed a little bit because this guy is still unhinged, not sure of himself. I don't really know if he could ever pull off some of the things you would see a real Joker do. It's almost like you shouldn't call this movie Joker because the Joker's in it for like 10, 20 minutes maybe out of a 2 hour film. The Joker's not really in it's really just an origin story. And I'm
Yeah.
totally fine with that. But calling it Joker and people expecting it to be an actual Joker movie is going to be misleading a little bit because he's not full costume, full makeup Joker the entire time. I really did like it. I think the what it aimed to do, the message that the director and Joaquin Phoenix wanted to get across, the version of the character that they wanted to put on film, they thought it would work, and I think it did work. I think it worked very well. So I'm happy we finally got to see it. I'm happy that it's doing really well because it's going to have a record-setting October opening weekend. And it's interesting what DC Comics is going to do going from here because you've had movies like Aquaman that are and Shazam that are big Hollywood style special effects blockbusters, and now you have this one which is going to get all the accolades, a couple of Academy Awards, and DC has a lot of decisions to make going forward, and I'm all for it. So we'll see what happens next with DC Comics and Warner Brothers.
Yeah, I think what you just said was great. I liked everything you said. The only thing is, man, to me, Aquaman, it just didn't really meet expectations.
I got you. There's a
It's
lot of people
another
that feel that way.
it's
Yeah,
another DC movie, that was made in this iteration that they try to make movies connect and all that with these interesting characters, and it just kind of didn't live up to the expectations.
I
Shazam,
got you.
however, I like Shazam. I think
Shazam
Shazam
was
was really
fun.
well done. It was fun. It was a movie that was lighthearted. It had some serious moments, but at the core, it was about a kid, and it was about having fun, almost like Spider-Man in a way.
Sure,
So
sure.
I like that one, man. But we can talk
Yeah,
more about that. But the Joker, I really dug it. I feel like if it's a one-off movie, they did a wonderful job making it a one-off. I hear what you're saying about we really didn't get to see him. It was more of an origin story. You're not really gonna
yeah.
get to see that character if they do decide to do a second movie, because if it makes the cash that they want, money dictates where they will go. And
You're right
it is
about that.
it's controversy. It's controversial. So that's also good for business. Whether
Yeah,
it be good or bad, it's going to be in the media's eye. They're going to be talking about it. I guarantee you, on Monday, it's going to be all over the news. People are going to be talking about it, and you know, it's gonna be interesting to see what they do if they're going to make another movie. And as the second movie, is it going to be more of the Joker that people are accustomed to seeing? We
yeah.
only time will tell in that regards, but like I said, money dictates where the studios will go.
You're right about that. You are right about that.
Yeah. So I mean, let's go ahead and give us our final thoughts in closing here. And me, I really enjoyed the film. Yes, it's dark, it's uncomfortable. There's a lot of moments that are gonna make you say like, "Oh man, look at that. This is kind of almost too much to watch at times." Especially if you're thinking of from the mindset of taking kids into the theater. I mean, taking a
Please don't.
10, 12-year old. I mean, come on now. That's
Yeah,
gonna be rough for them to see what's unfolding on the big screen. But
yeah.
and from my point of view, I thought it was well done. Everything was executed wonderfully. So I'm gonna have to say, if I have to rate it out of 5 stars, I'm gonna have to give it a solid 4. There was still some things I think could have been a lot better given the time constraints that they have with movies. Nowadays they did the best they could. I think they just should have given us a little bit more of the Joker instead of just that minuscule 10 to 15 minutes that we got to see him full on Joker. I would have liked to see a little bit more in the movie and see a little bit more of that chaos that the Joker brings. Maybe I would have, given it a full 5. but it was really well done. So I'm gonna have
Yeah.
to give it a solid 4. What are your thoughts?
Our Geekcast, the Countdown City Geekcast, we actually have a similar rating, 1 to 5. We do go in half increments whenever that sort of comes up. So I'll start out by doing my rating. I'm going to say a 4.5. And the reason why I say 4.5 is because this movie had a plan, and that plan was to keep this character grounded. The plot points, the twists, the turns in this film, I think were all really done. Because even though I had an inkling that some of these things were going to happen, I didn't fully expect it. The subplot with Thomas Wayne potentially being Arthur's father, I think was great,
Yeah,
and the fact that they didn't come and completely do that, like it was all just, the mom's sort of crazy ongoings with her own psyche, I think was even better because I did not want to see Joker and Bruce Wayne be related in some way. So God bless you, Todd Phillips, for not doing that. That would have just that would have pissed off all the fanboys, myself included.
oh yeah,
But I like I said, this movie had a plan. This movie had a direction, and it stuck with it. And I think when you Warner Brothers, this is going out to you guys, when you have a director that has an idea or a plan, and you let them completely go all in on it, your movies have been successful. Wonder Woman, Shazam. I'll throw an Aquaman in there. At least James Wan put something on the screen that was pretty big and spectacular. Whether or not it was, it's not one of the better DC films, but when you let the directors go out and do their own thing, you don't get in the way, then good things can happen. So bravo to Joaquin Phoenix and Todd Phillips. They had a really bold idea. It's really bold to go out there and say we're going to do an origin story with the most popular villain in all of non or all of fiction and all of media, and it's not going to be a fast-paced film. It's not going to be energetic. It's not going to be over the top. It's going to be low, and they played it well. So bravo to them. They pulled something off that I don't think anybody thought could have been done. So bravo. I liked it a lot. I hope you go watch it. Don't take your kids.
yeah. Don't take the kids. But before we
Don't
go
take
ahead,
the kids.
but before we go ahead and put an end to this movie review here that we're doing with the Two Shots podcast, where can everybody find all the great movie reviews and all the great content that you all are putting out there on social media?
Oh gosh, well, we've been around for 4 years now. You can find us at countdowncitygeekcast.com. That's our blog site. You're going to find all of our movie reviews, our general discussions, because we talk about TV shows, we talk about news happening on a weekly basis. If you're into wrestling, we also put out a weekly wrestling show, which is quite frankly pretty spectacular because the guys on the show are by far the most knowledgeable wrestling fans I've ever met. So you can find the Countdown City WrestleCast on YouTube. You can search that, or our YouTube channel is actually Countdown City Geeks. So we're also across social media, so be sure to follow us. And Joe, want to make sure I thank you again, sir. Thanks for having me. This is my first actual public discussion about this film. So
Wow.
our review is going to be out probably early in the week, probably tomorrow or Tuesday.
Oh, well, I'm honored, man. Thank you for coming out on the show. This is my first official movie review that I'm doing
Awesome,
for
man.
the Two
Awesome.
Shots podcast. I hope I did okay and I didn't ramble on a lot and just talk a bunch of
Not at all.
nonsense.
Not at all, man. I really appreciate it. It's a good talk.
Yeah, so you can also follow us here at the Two Shots Podcast, and we're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and we're also going to be having a YouTube channel coming up pretty soon. You know, we already have it on, but we're going to be pushing that a little bit more, doing some interesting stuff that we're not doing on just a normal podcast, giving you some video reviews, talking entertainment, sports, and just having a good time with things, you know, because we can't take ourselves too serious all the time because that's no fun, man. We got to have
No,
some
not at
fun with
all.
it.
Yeah.
So for Steady, for the Countdown City Geekcast, I'm Joe Garcia. Thank you for watching another episode of the Two Shots Podcast. And like we always say, spread the love, stop the hate, be kind, we're out, peace.
Peace.